Most people fall in love with Sam Roi Yot in about 5 minutes. The views, the mountains, the empty beaches. It feels like the Thailand people imagine before they ever get here. And at first, it's exactly that: quiet, peaceful, slower. But here's what doesn't get talked about. After a few months, sometimes less, that same quiet can start to feel very different. Not peaceful, just empty. And that's where a lot of people get caught off guard. Because Sam Roi Yot doesn't change, your experience of it does. So the real question isn't whether it's beautiful, it definitely is. The question is, can you actually live here long term without it becoming too quiet? So where exactly is Sam Roi Yot? And how do people end up here in the first place? It's about 40 minutes south of Hua Hin, close enough that you can still reach everything, but far enough that it feels like you've stepped out of it completely. And that's usually how it starts. Most people don't plan to move to Sam Roi Yot. They start in Hua Hin, then spend a few weeks, maybe a few months, and at first it feels ideal, easy, comfortable, and social. But over time, something shifts. Hua Hin starts to feel a bit busier than expected. More traffic, more people, more of a developed feel than they had in mind. Still nice, but not quite the quiet Thailand they imagined. So naturally, they start looking just a little bit further out. First Kowtow, then maybe Prambury, and eventually Sam Roi Yot shows up, usually as a photo, a villa surrounded by mountains, open space, no buildings, no noise. And the price? Lower than Hua Hin. That's the moment it clicks. Why am I paying more to live somewhere busier? And that's how the idea takes hold. It feels like you've found something hidden, somewhere quieter, more authentic, more you. But what most people don't realize at this stage is that they're not just choosing a different location, they're choosing a completely different lifestyle. And that difference only really shows up after you've been there a while. When people first arrive in Sam Roi Yot, almost everyone has the same reaction. They love it. The mountains feel dramatic, almost unreal. The beaches are empty, quiet in a way that's hard to find anymore. Everything feels slower, calmer, easier. And for the first few weeks, sometimes even a few months, it really does feel like you've found something special, like you've stepped out of the noise and into a simpler version of life. But then something subtle starts to change. Not all at once, just little things. What felt peaceful starts to feel a bit too quiet. What felt simple starts to feel slightly inconvenient. I've spoken to people who moved here, loved it at first, and then quietly moved back to Hua Hin a year later. Not because anything was wrong, just because over time it didn't quite fit the life that they actually wanted. And what felt relaxing starts to require more effort than you expected. That's the shift most people don't anticipate, because visiting somewhere quiet and living somewhere quiet are two completely different experiences. At first, the distance from everything feels like freedom, but over time, that same distance can start to feel like friction. Simple things aren't so simple anymore. Groceries aren't just downstairs. Meeting friends isn't spontaneous. Even a casual dinner can turn into a planned trip. And none of this is a problem at first, but day after day it starts to shape how you live. That's when the question changes. It's no longer, is this place beautiful? It becomes, Does this lifestyle actually suit me? Because Sam Roi Yot doesn't slowly reveal itself, it stays exactly the same. You're the one who starts to see it differently. So, what does day to day life here actually feel like? Let's say you're living near the beach, somewhere around Dolphin Bay. Most mornings start early, not because you have to, but because the place naturally slows you into that rhythm. It's quiet, really quiet. No traffic, no background noise, just birds, maybe the sound of the sea in the distance, and at first that feels incredible. You wake up, make a coffee, step outside, and it almost feels like you've escaped something, like the world has just backed off a bit. You might walk down to the beach, and there's a good chance you barely see anyone. Maybe a local fisherman, a couple of dogs wandering along the sand. That's it. And for some people, that's exactly the point. But this is where the experience starts to split. Because after the peaceful start, real life kicks in. You need groceries, you need supplies, and suddenly nothing is quite on your doorstep. A quick shop isn't a quick shop, it's a drive. Sometimes 30, 40 minutes, depending on what you need. So you start planning your days differently. Errands aren't casual anymore, they're intentional. You batch things together. You know what? I'll go to Hua Hin tomorrow instead. And again, that's not a problem, but it changes your rhythm. The day becomes a bit more structured, a bit less spontaneous. Same with the social life. In a place like Hua Hin, you might just head out, grab a coffee, meet someone, see what happens. Here, it's different. If you're meeting people, it's usually planned. A message, a time, a drive. And if you don't plan it, it's very easy for a day to pass where you don't really speak to anyone. For some people, that's peaceful. For others, that's where it starts to feel a bit too quiet. Afternoons slow right down. The heat kicks in, and most people retreat a bit. Maybe you're at home, swimming, reading, spending time in your space. And if you've chosen this lifestyle intentionally, this part can feel great. But if you didn't fully realize what you were signing up for, this is where boredom can start creeping in. Not because there's something wrong, but because every day starts to look a little bit similar. Evenings are simple, a few restaurants nearby, some really nice low-key places, but not a huge variety. Not much happening, no real buzz. So again, it comes back to you. If you enjoy quiet evenings, a glass of wine, simple meal, early nights, you'll probably love it. If you're someone who likes a bit of energy, you might find yourself heading back to Hua Hin more often than you expected. And that's really what life here really becomes, a balance between enjoying the quiet and occasionally needing to step out of it. Some days that balance feels perfect. Other days it feels like something's missing. So what does this actually feel like over time? Not just one good day, but a full week of living here. Let's walk through it. Mondays usually start well. You feel productive, you planned your week, maybe you did a grocery run over the weekend. The fridge is stocked, everything's in place. Morning is calm, coffee, a walk, a bit of structure. And this is where Sam Roi Yot really works. You feel settled, in control of your time, like life has slowed down, but in a good way. Then you get to midweek, let's say Wednesday. Nothing's wrong, but nothing really happening either. You've already done your errands, you've seen the same roads, the same places, and this is where it starts to depend on you. If you've got your own routine, your own focus, you're fine. But if you're relying on the environment to give you something, this is where it can feel a bit flat. Not bad, just quiet in a different way. By Friday, something usually shifts. You start thinking, oh, maybe I'll head to Hua Hin tomorrow. Not because anything's wrong, but because you feel like a bit of a change. Different food, different atmosphere, a bit more energy. And this is something you see a lot. People living here but regularly dipping back into Hua Hin just to reset the balance. Then Sunday comes around. You're back. And interestingly, the quiet feels good again. The space, the slower pace. It's almost like you appreciate it more after stepping away from it. And that's really the rhythm many people fall into. Not constant isolation, not constant activity, but a back and forth between the two. Some weeks that balance feels perfect. Other weeks you might feel like you need a bit more from the environment. And that's the reality of living here long term. It's not about whether a single day feels good. It's about how that rhythm feels week after week. Now let's talk about the cost, because this is one of the main reasons people even consider Sam Roi Yot in the first place. On paper, it looks like a clear winner. You'll see villas here, proper pool villas, for noticeably less than Hua Hin. More space, more privacy, less money. And that's usually the moment people start thinking, why wouldn't I choose this instead? And to be fair, in some ways they're right. Rent is generally cheaper. You can get a modern pool villa here for around $1,000 a month, something that would cost quite a bit more in the main areas of Hua Hin. Utilities are reasonable, local food is cheap, basic day-to-day living here can be very affordable. So yes, your monthly costs can come down, because you're not just changing your costs, you're changing how you live. Saving money here often means living more locally, more cooking at home, fewer restaurant options, fewer spontaneous outings. And then there's the hidden trade-off, convenience, because every time you need something more specific, you're probably driving. Groceries, imported foods, a decent supermarket, that's usually a trip back to Hua Hin. So while you might save on rent, you spend more time managing your life and a bit more on fuel here and there. It's not a huge financial difference day to day, but it all adds up in terms of effort. Most people find they're maybe 10 to 20% cheaper overall compared to Hua Hin. Nice, but not dramatic, and definitely not enough on its own to justify the move. That's the key point. If you're choosing Sam Roi Yot purely to save money, it probably won't feel worth it. But if you already want that lifestyle, then the lower cost just becomes a bonus. Before people move to Sam Roi Yot, there are a few things they tend to get wrong. Not because they haven't done their research, but because it's hard to understand this place until you've actually lived here. The first one is simple. They assume cheaper means better. They see a bigger house, more space, lower rent, and it feels like an obvious upgrade. But what they're really trading is convenience, and that only becomes clear later. The second thing is distance. On a map, 30 to 40 minutes doesn't sound like much, and at first it isn't. But when that drive becomes part of your routine, groceries, appointments, meeting people, you start to feel it differently. Not as a distance, but as effort. And then there's the big one, quiet. A lot of people think they want it, and to a point they do. But there's a difference between enjoying quiet and living in it every day. Because quiet isn't just peaceful, it's also still. And if you're not used to that, it can take some adjustment. None of these are mistakes on their own, but together they're usually what shape someone's experience here. And it's why two people can move to the same place with the same expectations and end up feeling completely different about it. Now, with all that said, when Sam Roi Yot works for someone, it really works. Because what feels like too quiet to one person feels exactly right to someone else. If you're the kind of person who genuinely done with noise, done with traffic, done with that constant low level stimulation, this place can feel like a reset. Not a holiday, a proper reset. Your days slow down, but in a good way. You're not rushing anywhere. You're not filling time. You're just living it. And for some people, that's exactly what they've been missing. It especially suits people who are comfortable in their own routines. You don't need something happening every day. You're happy with simple structure. Morning walk, coffee, time at home, maybe a drive out, maybe not. And that's enough. Couples often do really well here too. Not because there's loads to do, but because the lifestyle naturally brings you into sync. You spend more time together, more shared routines, less distraction. If that foundation is already there, this kind of place can really strengthen it. It's also ideal if you have something you enjoy doing on your own: reading, writing, photography, cycling, anything that doesn't rely on other people. Because here you've got the space for it, mentally and physically. And then there's the environment itself. The longer you stay, the more you start to notice things. The light changes, the weather patterns, the rhythm of the area. It's not dramatic, but it's grounding. A lot of people who settle here long term say they feel calmer, sleep better, think more clearly, not because anything special is happening, but because less is happening. And that's the appeal. You're close enough to Hua Hin when you need it, but far enough that it doesn't follow you home. And for the right person, that balance feels just about perfect. But of course, that same quiet comes with trade-offs. And this is where Sam Roi Yot starts to feel very different, depending on the person. The first one is isolation. Not immediately. At first, the space feels refreshing. But over time, you may start to notice how small your world becomes. There's no central hub here. No easy place where people naturally gather together. So your social life becomes something you have to actively create. You might know a few neighbors, maybe meet a few people occasionally, but it's not as effortless as somewhere like Hua Hin. If you're not careful, your circle can stay quite small. For some people, that's enough. For others, it slowly starts to feel a bit limiting. Then there's healthcare. Day to day, you'll be fine. There are small clinics around for basic things. But anything more serious, you're going to Hua Hin, and that's a 30 to 40-minute drive at least. During the day, that's manageable, but at night or in an emergency, it feels a lot further. It's not a deal breaker for most people, but it's something you become very aware of over time. Then there's convenience, or more accurately, the lack of it. You don't really pop out for things here. Everything takes a bit more thought, a bit more planning, whether it's groceries, paperwork, meeting people. You're almost always factoring in travel. Again, that's not a problem in isolation, but when it's every day, it changes how easy life feels. And then there's boredom. Not sudden, not dramatic, just gradual. The same roads, the same shops, the same routines. For some people, that repetition is calming. For others, it starts to feel like there's not quite enough going on. And the tricky part is, you don't always notice it's happening. It builds slowly. There's also a level of self-sufficiency here that some people underestimate. You're a bit more hands-on with daily life, managing the house, sorting small issues, dealing with things locally, sometimes with limited English. Some days that feels simple, other days it can feel a bit frustrating. And finally, there's the environment itself. It's beautiful, no question, but it can feel exposed. Less shade, strong sun, long quiet afternoons. And depending on the time of year, that can start to wear on you as well. None of these things on their own are major problems, but together they shape what living here really feels like. And that's the key difference. It's not about whether Sam Roi Yot is good or bad. It's about whether you still enjoy it once the novelty is worn off. At this point, it really comes down to one question. Do you want balance or do you want quiet? Because that's the real difference between Hua Hin and Sam Roi Yot. Hua Hin is easy. Everything is there. Hospitals, restaurants, coffee shops, shopping, a proper expat community. You can wake up and decide your day as you go. No planning, no long drives, no effort just to live your life. If you want social interactions, it's there. If you want quiet, you can still find it. It's flexible. Sam Roi Yot is different. It's not trying to be convenient. It's not trying to offer everything. What it gives you is space, silence, nature, distance from all the noise. But in return, it asks you for more. More planning, more independence, more comfort with your own routine. In Hua Hin, life comes to you. In Sam Roi Yot, you go to life. That's the trade. And you feel it every single day. Socially, the difference is huge. In Hua Hin, you can build a full routine around people. Clubs, groups, casual meetups. You can be as social or as private as you want. In Sam Roi Yot, your circle is smaller, more intentional, and if you don't actively build it, it doesn't really happen. Healthcare is another clear divide. Hua Hin gives you immediate access. Sam Roi Yot gives you distance you have to manage. Not a deal breaker, but definitely a factor. And then there's the feeling. Hua Hin feels like a small town that works. Sam Roi Yot feels like a retreat. One is about ease, the other is about escape. And this is why a lot of people end up doing something in between. They base themselves in Hua Hin and come down to Sam Roi Yot when they want the quiet. Because the truth is, you don't have to fully commit to one or the other. But if you are choosing just one, you need to be very clear on what you value more. Convenience or calm, community or space, ease or simplicity. Because whichever one you pick, you're not just choosing a location, you're choosing how your life feels day to day. So who is this actually right for? Let's make it simple. You probably do well in Sam Roi Yot if you're someone who genuinely enjoys your own space. You don't need constant interaction. You don't rely on things happening around you. You're comfortable with the quiet, not just for a few days, but as a way of life. You're also okay with a bit of effort, driving when you need things, planning your week, handling small problems yourself. That doesn't frustrate you, it just feels normal. And you probably have your own routines already, things you enjoy doing without relying on other people. Reading, exercise, creative work, because here, that's what fills your time. If you're in a couple, it works best when you're already aligned. You don't need external stimulation to feel fulfilled. You're happy just spending time together without needing to constantly go out or do something new. If that sounds like you, there's a very good chance you'll enjoy it here. But on the other side, if you're someone who needs variety, this can be a difficult adjustment. If you like being able to just step out and find something to do, or meet people without planning, you'll probably feel restricted. If you don't drive, this place becomes very limiting very quickly. If you like having options, different restaurants, different environments, different routines, you may start to feel boxed in. And then there's another one people don't always expect. If you think you want a quiet life, but you've never actually lived one before, this can be a bit of a shock, because quiet sounds appealing until you're actually inside it every day. And that's where some people realize they didn't want less life. They just wanted a different version of it. So if you're unsure, the best thing you can do is to test it. Come for a couple of months, live here properly, not as a visitor, but as it's your daily routine. Because Sam Roi Yot is one of those places where you don't really know if it fits you until you've experienced the quiet for yourself. So what's it really like living in Sam Roi Yot? It's peaceful, that part is true. It's one of the few places left along the coastline where life still feels slow, open and relatively untouched. You've got space, you've got quiet, you've got a version of Thailand that's getting harder to find. But that quiet comes with a trade. Less convenience, less variety, less going on around you. And over time, that either feels exactly right or just a bit too much. That's really what this place comes down to. Sam Roi Yot doesn't try to be everything. It's not built for entertainment or ease or constant activity. It's built for a different pace of life. And if that's what you genuinely want, it can feel like the perfect fit. But if you still want more options, movement, a bit of energy around you, you probably feel the distance more than the peace. So the real question isn't, is Sam Roi Yot too quiet? It's, what kind of life do you actually want when nothing's happening? Because that's what this place really gives you. And for some people, that's everything. For others, it's just a little bit too much. If you enjoyed today's video, can you do me a massive favor? Press the subscribe button. Really helps the channel push to people like yourselves who want to retire in areas like this. Thanks for listening today, and I'll see you on the next one.